So, Will, great to see you, and congratulations on taking over the family business, particularly these amazing wineries like Harlan, Bond, and Promontory, and also Mascot. And so, obviously, the question is, I think a lot of people are interested to know, what are your plans? Is it just more of the same, or do you have some pretty, some different ideas going forward?
Well, it's the really important thing for us is continuity, and it helps a lot that the vision that my dad set out for Harlan Estate for Bond. We're really aligned on where we want to go. With Promontory, I've gotten to have a bit more of a hand in creating that vision, being with that from the beginning, and so in many ways I see that as my creative outlet in terms of potentially shaping a bit of a different path. But no, I think with Harlan Estate and Bond, I still see so much potential for deepening our understanding of the land, and elevating our abilities to connect with people around the world, and give them some better insight into what we're up to. So nothing that we do is we hope ever the same. We hope to continue to evolve, but continuity is really the important thing. So I'm not trying to come in and all of a sudden change the vision here and there, or impose my own kind of will upon the thing. It's really to take what we've got right now and just bring them to the next level, and the next level after that.
And as far as like wine styles and production and maintaining, I mean, I think you've changed the style a little bit. The wines are much more transparent and talk more of where they come from. Is it just a continuation of that?
Yeah, I mean, you look at production. That's Corey Empting, our director of wine growing, world that I like to dabble in now and again. But no, I mean, everything that he and his team has done is really incredible. Just seeing the evolution over the years. For us, again, it's always about evolution rather than revolution. And what you spoke about, what you touched on, with this kind of each year we're getting, I think, closer to this transparency and this pure translation of place into the wine. This is something that we fully plan to continue the trajectory on. I think we have two main things that are contributing to this. First of all, our experience with the land. We've gotten to spend a lot more time with the land, and we just know it better for having spent that time. It takes a long time to understand a piece of land, but also we're seeing what vine age can really bring to the table in better, I think, expressing a place.
That's important. And what I read something that you're going to build a winery for Mascot.
So far, we don't have any plans to build a winery for the Mascot. The way that the Mascot is really created is at the blending table. So the
Mhm.
component parts that come from the young vineyards of each property, that's all vinified kind of at their respective properties, and then they're brought up, they're aged, at their wineries, and then at the blending table, we work collaboratively to weave together these components that become the final blend of the Mascot. So it doesn't really have or need its own winery. That isn't to say that maybe someday, but for now, no plans for a Mascot winery.
Well, you're young, so you have plenty of time to work it out.
Exactly.
So the other, I guess, one thing would be interesting to know also, how about the business model, like direct to consumer? Is that's going to continue, but do you have plans? You have global demand now, which is fantastic. A lot of wineries in California don't have that, other than places like Opus or whatever. What do you do you have any ideas about that?
The balance that we've created between the direct to consumer and the trade channels, we think is really healthy. Each property has a slightly different balance, and even maybe a slightly different focus in terms of region. Bond tends to be more domestically focused. Harlan Estate we've always seen as the international, sharp end of the spear. So each one has its own model and its own. We run them as completely independent entities, but at the same time, we can at the ownership level learn from one, and that helps us be very strategic in how we really look after each one of the distribution models. So I don't see any big changes happening there, but there's always ways to evolve and improve the network that we have.
And what's like, I guess, well, we never really talk about it, but Meadowood and all that, you're going to be in charge of that as well. So that's a big job after the fire.
So, that's actually that's not quite within my purview yet. We
Okay.
carve off what we consider, the wine growing domain, which includes Harlan Estate, Bond, Promontory, and the mascot, I guess, as the little brother. And then we have the Meadowood and Napa Valley Reserve. Those are essentially linked, and they're a close cousin. But I'm staying focused as much as I can on the wine side of things for the time being.
Okay. All right. And so I guess, what do you think about the next 10 years or the future of Napa? Because I haven't been back in a year, but I have a house there, and I think things are evolving. And what are your thoughts about it with tourism, and as we come out of the pandemic? What are your ideas?
Well, I think the pandemic is certainly building up a lot of pent-up demand for travel, but also experiences and wine. We're already seeing an incredible influx of interest in the Napa Valley, even as things are just starting to ease. And I think the whole pandemic's created a bit of an existentialist and scenario where people really appreciate being out a little bit more. And I don't want to say that we're going to go back to the roaring 20s, but that is something that you're hearing people say here and there. I don't know. The next 10 years, I feel really good about in Napa. I think, as a trend, as a region, as a whole, we're maturing in many ways, and I think people are really, I mean, the wines that are being produced here are just across the board at a different level than they were 15, 20 years ago, and I think that trend is going to improve as well, so or continue. So I think I'm very bullish on Napa Valley.
Yeah, and I have to. That's a very good point about how the styles of the wines have changed and the quality is much better. I've even seen that in the last 10 years since I'm starting jameshuckling.com, and the wines is a real much more of a drinkability and less stylized wines, and Napa has such amazing different terroirs, which of course Bond was one of the leaders on that with terroir specific bottlings. So I think that's, yeah, like you say, that's really cool. One question I just thought also though, but what are some of the challenges with climate change and fires? Like how do you feel about that?
Well, climate change is something that we're all watching very, very closely. And on just the farming side, we've been over the past decade or more already been trying to move almost the entirety of our production to dry farmed, really training the vines to survive in these low moisture environments. And it's changed how we replant vineyards. It changed how we prune and train the vines. It's changed the vine density. I mean, it's really something that we're watching very closely. We're fortunate in a certain respect. You look at where Harlan Estate and Promontory are. In the western hills with eastern exposure, we have the morning sun, but not the afternoon. On the western side of the valley, we're surrounded by forests, so you have this cooling evaporative effect by the surrounding forests. And we're up off the valley floor, so again, a little more air movement, a little cooler environment. So I think we're pretty well set up from just the property that we have, to deal with, any oncoming change in climate. But what you said about the fires is definitely, that's a real concern. And we've we've been working really with the surrounding forest that we have, for a little over the past decade as well, in just trying to manage the forest as well as we can to provide a healthy, co-environment for the vines. And then once the fires hit in 17, we realized we needed to really focus even more attention on it. We've actually got full-time crews whose role is just to look after the forest and clearing out the understory and the dead wood, limbing up the trees, clearing out the ladder fuels. So it's something that we're prepared for being a part of our future, and we're just trying to really just be in a really good position no matter what comes down the pipe. So yeah, something we're thinking about.
Is there anything else that that you like wanted to comment on or say about?
I mean, the main thing for me is just that I feel incredibly grateful for the opportunity to lead the family businesses going forward. Generational transitions, I don't think are very easy. And going from the founding generation to the second generation is where almost everybody fails. So we've all been working really hard over the past handful of years and beyond. I mean, if you look at just how I think my dad was planting those seeds when I was very, very young. But I will say that as challenging as it can be, family businesses have a whole other level of I think certain complexity, but it is incredibly rewarding, and I'm very grateful and honored to have the opportunity to take this forward. And yeah, I'm very excited for the future.